What's going on, Beaumont, Texas? Welcome to episode 62 of Talking Throws Podcast, Texas Style. I'm Coach Jason.
And I'm Coach Janelle.
And we are throws coaches with the track club, the Thorn Factory. You can go to thethornfactory.com to check out our bios. And also, too, just let everybody know, as usual, we're still getting ready for the indoor season. We're doing lessons. We're doing online lessons for us, but also for Coach Smith, west at the Thorn Factory. Thank everybody for downloading and watching his episode on YouTube. It was a big success. So if you have any questions after you get to put a name with the face for Coach Kai, go to the website and you'll find his contact information on there. And then Coach Jarvis, East at the Thorn Factory, is gearing up for the 2022 season. So if you have questions and you are in his area, which is at Mesquite, Forney, Terrell, East Texas area, you can reach out to Coach Jarvis, and his information is on the website too. So remind everybody too that you can go shopping on our shopping page and get a really cool podcast shirt, hats.
We didn't plan this, but we
matched, sort of. We have new sweat tops that we have. So Christmas is coming out. If you want to look cool at your next track meet, indoor is going to be coming about. So if you want to look good at the next indoor track meet, be sure to go shopping at thethornfactory.com and get your local sportswear. So, and then also too, check us out on YouTube. The channel's the Talking Throws Podcast. Texas Style on YouTube, so go give us a thumbs up and please subscribe to that. We appreciate your support. We want to thank our sponsors for season 4. Without them, we can't do what we do, so we're grateful. We're very grateful for those guys. First off, Texas Track and Field Coach Association. That website is ttfca.org, ttfca.org for the latest in Texas track and field news. Indoor-outdoor meets are starting to happen. Texas A&M Indoor High School Meet is January 7th and 8th. You can go hit the link on the website, and that'll take you to a bio so you can register for all that. There's indoor meets in Houston, Texas Tech, Arkansas. OU's having 2 high school meets. Fast Track is hosting some youth and master meets at University of Houston. So that's all on Texas Track and Field Coaches Association's website. We want to thank our favorite throws company, 4throws.com. Quality implements priced right. Go to 4throws.com. Use 10% off to use our code. Yeah.
Sorry, Vanna is failing at her job.
Yes. So you can go check 4throws.com out and check the new FiberSport Disc. If you use Talking Throws 10, you'll get 10% off the purchase of this disc. So it goes to a good cause. Go check these out. These fly really, really well. The research is on FiberSportDiscus.com. If you want to understand how these were created and how they fly, go check that out. It's created by Bruce Caldwell. Porta-Circle, making throwing more accessible. Go to Porta-Circle to use the code TalkingThrows10. As you know, Porta-Circle can be put up anywhere, in a gym, on the grass, in the concrete, in a kitchen floor, wherever you feel like you need to get reps in. A Porta-Circle is going to be a great tool to help you get those reps in. Our favorite athletic development, ReadyUp Athletic Development, ran by Zach Phillips at Austin, Texas, 512-507-8347. You can go to ReadyUpAD.com or follow Zach at ReadyUp on Instagram or Facebook. If you're in the greater Austin area and if you're looking for team consulting, semi-privates, or individual lessons, whether it's Olympic lifting, powerlifting, or bodybuilding, or just team building, contact Zach Phillips, ReadyUp Athletic Development. Again, FiberSport Discus. Welcome to a new way to get to the distance. FiberSport Discus is taking the guesswork out of your discus selection. It's just not about the rim weight anymore. FiberSportsDiscus.com, or you can contact Bruce at 817-819-1472. So we appreciate that, and we'll see you down the road. Today's guest is currently the throws coach at Lamar University. For the last 5 years, he's been coaching at the collegiate level. He was a volunteers coach at LSU. He coached a young man at the Hammer that went to the NCAA. I think he was an All-American there. He was a throws coach at Southeastern Louisiana, where he coached the multis and the throws. Collegiately, he was a hell of a javelin thrower. He was a D2 All-American for 2 years in 2012 and 2013. He had a lifetime PR in the javelin at 232 feet. He graduated from East Stroudsburg University with a bachelor's and master's degree. He's originally from New Jersey, so please welcome to the podcast the current throws coach at Lamar University, Matt Tholis. So Matt, tell us a little about what's going on at Lamar University right now. I know y'all are moving up to the WAC, I believe. What's happening with that situation going from the Southland to the WAC?
So pretty much what happened was when Lamar and the other 3 Texas schools decided to change conference and leave the Southland and go to the Western Athletic Conference. What happened was Coach Clark and his assistant sat down and said, can we win with the structure that we have going on, right? So traditionally, Lamar had been a very distance-oriented school because they could be very competitive in the conference in Southland, just off distance, right? With a few sprints and a couple field events here and there. But what they found was with some of the schools in the WAC, being, generally pretty okay at distance, just wasn't going to cut it in this conference, right? So they did an analysis and they're like, where can we really pick up the most points for conference? And they found the field events were not very deep. So they started bringing in a bunch of jumpers, and then they hired a throws coach, this guy right here.
Somebody you know.
Yeah, exactly. Who's that?
Yeah.
So who did they hire a jump coach as well?
So they hired him 2 years ago, Coach Tyler Sunwall. So he's been here a little bit. He's got a nice little group he's been working with, and he's the All-American last year in the triple jump. So
awesome. So tell us a little bit about Coach Clark and kind of what he's doing with the program. How long has he been there? And what ties does he have in Texas?
So Coach Clark has been in Beaumont, I think, since Beaumont existed, since the founders came back in the day.
That's awesome.
Really?
No, I don't know. He was born and raised right in this area. He went to Lamar. He ran track here back in the day. And then he was an assistant here for 5 years, I think, and now he's been head coach for 23, I want to say. So yeah, he lives and breathes Lamar track and field.
That's awesome.
That's a long time in one place.
Yep. So talk about a guy who knows all the ins and outs of the area. That's
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So you started in the fall of this year, right?
Correct.
Okay. How's it been going so far?
It's been going really well. I got 3. They went out last year and they recruited me 3 throwers for this year. So we got 2 who were, one was a 59-footer out of high school last year. Another one was a 57-footer. Then another one was a 52-footer, but he's going to be our hammer guy. So he's not, the shot put, the 16 especially, is beating him up a little bit. He doesn't have the strength numbers as the other guys do, but they've been doing really well, the other 2 in shot put. So I'm really excited for, what they're going to bring to the table. I think, I don't want to put numbers out there, but I think they'll be competitive at our conference. At least, as freshmen go, I think they'll be making the final and maybe putting a couple points on the board for us, which is, starts the ball rolling for our program, especially going into the throws.
Now, do you coach the girls throwers as well? Does Lamar have a girls side as well?
We do. Currently, we do. Actually, fun fact, we just had our first female throws practice today.
Wow, there you go. Did we break the school record?
Honestly, probably. But yeah, we just had one girl who was on the volleyball team. Their season just finished, so she threw discus in high school and she wanted to try it out. And I'm like, we need throwers. Let's go.
Awesome. That is awesome.
So
that's
she,
awesome.
My goal for her today was just figure out if she could fly it and is there a future, and I think there is. So we'll see what happens.
Will she just throw discus, or will she pick up hammer or anything else?
For now, until Jordan know a volleyball coach, don't listen to this, but until she's full on track, she's just gonna do discus.
Oh,
Gotcha.
No, but we're gonna split time with her, and just in terms of lowest impact, discus is probably the best to do multi-sport. So that's kind of my goal there. and keep her healthy. And, she's a starter on the volleyball team. She's pretty good. So,
Gotcha.
I can't go stealing her away.
Gotcha. So what has it been like since you've got into Beaumont and you started your recruiting and building? Are y'all working multiple questions? Are y'all building new facilities? Are you getting into the throwing area? The recruits, are they is that something they're going to see? And kind of how have you been laying out recruiting thus far since you've been there?
So recruiting wise, like the big sell is like, do you want to get in at the ground floor, right? Like we don't have that, fabled history of like every year All-American throwers, blah, 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 because we just haven't had them, right? So the big sell is like, listen, we're going all in on this. I've been putting in ridiculously big in like equipment orders. Like today, I just put one in for like $15,000 worth of javelins.
Oh wow!
How fun. That's fun. That's fun.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Yeah,
Christmas.
So, exactly. We just got a whole bunch of hammers and stuff in. We got way too many shot puts, but honestly, not enough shot puts at the same time. So yeah, we've just been stocking up on all that. So we're invested. We're all in on the throw side of things, right? So probably the biggest thing is like facilities wise, like you asked. So we don't have a hammer cage as of yet, right? Okay. We have discus circle, we have javelin runway, we have a really awesome shot put sector. It's probably my favorite thing out there. I'm standing. I think when Santi came to visit, I always just stand out there with my bare feet in the sand and just like pretend like I'm at the beach. It's amazing. So our plan is we actually had the guys out a week or two ago to start putting a plan together about where we're going to fit the hammer cage in our track facility. So we're going to lump that in. The track's set to be resurfaced, a drainage fish, the whole thing, and then we're going to add the hammer cage right on the infield. Originally, the plan was to have it somewhere else on campus, but working through different people, it's always a pain, anything state, university related.
Yeah.
So yeah, now that we can put it, I went out there and measured it all out, and we could put the hammer cage right there in the facility, and that's going to hopefully fly right through. And we're really hoping for it to be built over the summer and be operational by fall 2022.
Wow,
that'd be nice.
Are y'all a 10-lane track? How big is y'all's track there?
I believe it's an 8-lane track.
Is it 8? Okay.
Yeah. So Coach Clark's philosophy on our track is that we don't want to host any meets here.
That's where I was going with that.
Yeah. So any high schoolers wanting to come do a meet at Lamar, sorry.
Yeah.
But so the deal is that if we don't have to worry about hosting meets, like as any college coach that has had to help put meets on has done, like it's a pain. It is exhausting. You can't coach your athletes while it's going on because they're just getting pulled every different direction. So if we can just make this the most ideal training facility that we can, we're going to be super happy. And right now it has everything that we need minus the hammer cage. And we're just keep working on doing things and make it better, and just keep expanding on it, keep it rolling.
Is there talks of, does the track and field have their own locker room? Do y'all have those type of facilities down there like that?
Yeah, so we don't have our own locker room. We share a locker room with tennis. Okay. But there's only how many 5 tennis players I know. But yeah, so it's a combined locker room. It's right in the building, right next to the track. So you just walk inside, walk in there. The training room's right across the hall from there. There's a little student athlete lounge on that. Our offices are right on the perpendicular hallway there. So it's kind of this all-in-one facility right that way. And then to be honest, like the only thing that we're missing is the weight room right there. That's other side of campus, but other side of campus is like a 5-minute walk, so it's really not a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. So do y'all get to share that weight room? Are you talking about the football facilities in their same weight room? Do y'all share that one?
Yeah, so we have the one big weight room for everybody. Okay. But we have our own designated time slots for it and all that.
Okay, cool. Do you have your own strength and conditioning coach for track and field, or is it like assistant and stuff that kind of helps out?
Yeah, so we have 2 guys that work with us. One works primarily more with the throwers and then kind of helps run the workouts for the other guy who does the rest of the team. We are transitioning. It's been a little bit of a process this semester, but I'm a guy, I really like to write the weights. So the first 2 months, it was weird having it out of my hands. I had my inputs and we were making sure that we're on the same page with everything and just seeing it done a different way. And which was a cool experiment for me, right? Because how often as a coach can you experiment with something that you're not sure if it's going to work with kind of minimal consequence, right? Because we know these freshmen coming in, we want them to perform really well, but honestly, who really knows? So we knew that they were big and strong. We knew that they were pretty talented and they could strike a shot put. So why not try out a different way of, doing some cleans and progressions and stuff like that. I tend to keep it a little more simple in terms of we're not going to do too many complexes or crazy progressions on lifts and we're going to do this and that, a hang clean and then a power clean and then a snatch and this and that or chains and bands. I'm not big on any of that. I'm more okay, we're going to hit this rep range, this percentage, and we're going to do it from the floor and catch it in power. And we're going to do that. We'll switch to hang cleans. We'll do a version of pretty much every week. It'll be a version of a clean, a version of a jerk, and a version of a snatch. That's the way I like to do it. And then, change the percentages and stuff on those throughout the year. But, working with a different strength guy, we got to experiment with some of his band stuff, some of the chains and, different progressions on things. And the dudes got really strong. So,
it worked.
More tools in my tool belt.
There you go.
Now, are you a big advocate of lifting during the season and all that type stuff? Kind of, we're going to get into recruiting, but we're kind of all over the place. But we're going to go and go down weights since you're already on the weights there. So are you kind of lift in the mornings, throw in the afternoon for in season versus off, what you do off season?
Mm-hmm. So generally, when we're in season, I keep the same general format in terms of throw at whatever time we can throw pretty much because college kids with their class schedules, it's a mess and, it could be better. But we generally have our practice time, which is from 2 to 4, and then our lifting time is 4 to 5. So we'll go rolling right in from throws to lifting. And we do that now anyway. So I think the continuity of that just kind of helps just the structure overall. I know we might be missing out on some potentiation aspects if we, lift in the morning versus the afternoon, pre-practice, post-practice, all that. But at the end of the day, it's the confines that you have to work with under the systems that you have, right? So for us, we're maximizing. It was the same way when I was at my previous schools where, these are the weight room times allocated to you and your team. So, you find your way to work around that. But generally in season, we still lift and we lift pretty heavy too.
Good.
So we take out the squats and stuff. We take out the big heavy static lifts, but our Olympic lifts, we're still going pretty big on that.
Okay.
Fun little story, I guess, was last year at my previous school, I had one of my javelin throwers going out to nationals. And the Wednesday before nationals in Eugene, we're at the weight room at Southeastern and he had heavy cleans on the menu. And he goes, we're going for pretty much 1-on-runs, right? So a general in-season heavy clean workout would be a 3-2-2-1-1-1. We were doing them from the hang because we were doing 4 snatches during that cycle. So hang clean, he smacks a 15-pound PR, and I was like, this dude's ready to throw far.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
So that was a pretty cool little thing. It was a nice indicator of all right, he's ready. So it's out of my hands.
So how did he do at nationals?
He did really well. He had his second best throw ever. He came in 6th, and my second, but my first fully my product. I guess my product. He came in. He was a talented athlete anyway. But under my whole direction, All-American that I worked with.
Cool. What was his name?
Frank Desanza. He was a javelin thrower from Switzerland.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yep,
cool.
so
That's awesome.
really big dude, 6'6". Made me
Oh,
look like a
wow.
child next to him.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you like it when they walk in they're that big.
I don't like it when there's a picture of me and him plastered all over the Swiss newspapers, making me look like I'm 5'2".
Yeah,
My
of
head barely
course.
up to his shoulder.
Of course.
That's awesome.
So recruiting is hot and heavy right now in the fall period for throwing and stuff. Kind of walk us through kind of what you kind of look for and potential athletes that kind of fit your program at Lamar. And, kind of, just Texas being a shot and discus. And I know you've got a strong experience with javelin. Kind of what multi-sport athlete do you look for kind of maybe in a javelin thrower, but maybe also a hammer thrower as well?
Yeah, so I guess the recruiting profile that I generally look for is like, are they an athlete? Do they move well across the circle? But then the biggest thing is, can they strike the implement for me? Like, it's different when they hit a terrible position at the front, but that thing still rocks out of their hand, right? You can coach the position, you can't coach that punch on the shot put, right? I mean, maybe you guys can, maybe that's something I'm missing, but yeah, that's one thing, like that just distinct feel of the implement, that connection with it, and just that commitment to just smashing it. Like that's one thing that people have or they don't, they can develop it over time, but it will never be the same as someone coming out of high school that just, punches a shot put or strikes a javelin or flies a discus. It's just different. So like for me, the biggest thing I look for is what I kind of deem as like connection with the implement. If they can, make it go far, then it's going to work. Second to that is like, do they move well? Are they either like well coached or under coached? Because then like for us at at our level, we're kind of, and I came in late this year to the whole recruiting class. So we're looking for the people that are probably under coached, that don't quite have the numbers, that, hold on, sorry, my dog is chewing something on my foot. What are you doing under there? Sorry, I don't know what
we
it
love
is.
dogs. All's good.
What kind of dog?
I don't really know. They told me she was a shepherd and hound mix when I got her, but she looks part husky. If she ever walks around, I'll pick her up and I'll show you. But yeah, so what was I saying?
Undercoach.
Oh, being at the kind of coming in late to this recruiting cycle, we're looking for the people that, are undercoached, but still have those, those intangibles of, can they hit the ball? Can they fly the discus? Or, if I'm recruiting javelin throwers, like, can they just strike a javelin? Do they block well? Do they move well sideways? Or just kind of things that I look for on that. But even, I don't know, I can get down a whole tangent on javelin throwers, but the biggest thing is like, can they can they fly or strike the implement is the biggest thing I care about. And for us now, like, I'm just excited for people to want to come to Lamar and throw implement sports. Doesn't matter what it is. I figure just the talent level in Texas is unreal. We're gonna find some diamonds in the rough, and we already got one of your guys excited to come here, and I'm freaking stoked about it. So I think he's a dude who, might not have had the numbers from the past 2 years, but I think he's going to go pretty far this year, and I think he's got a pretty good history once those, for his strength numbers too. Like, I think he's got a future with the bigger implements.
Yeah, for sure. He just did I don't know, call it a one turn, a half turn 121 yesterday in the hammer.
He picked up the hammer,
for the first time ever.
He found off the poor discus cage over at the middle school we were at. On his first one, he was like, whoa, we're like, he was just going for it. It was awesome.
Yeah, he does not hold anything back. So are you getting out in the schools and talking with coaches and stuff? How's that been going? How are you juggling, being in Texas, football's pretty dominant, how are you juggling, those multi-sport athletes that, might fit the profile you're looking for, but are, I like football first, so to speak, coach.
Yeah, and believe me, there's been a lot of them. And then even still, like on the women's side, it's the volleyball players. I didn't realize how big that was around here either. So everyone kind of has their spots, their sports, right? So there's a few football players I've been talking with that, football, that's what they want to do. And you know what? If that's where your passion is, I don't want to sell you on something you're not as passionate about. Even if, the scholarship money would be better for us versus them, there's a spot on the team for them here, the whole thing. Like, if they want to be a football player, be a football player. I'm not trying to convince anybody anything else, right? Obviously, there's a lot of good football players that could throw some implements out there. So if I could get somebody, I still would. But truth of the matter is, if it's this point of the year for a senior and there isn't an offer or like a walk-on spot at somewhere decent that they want to play at, chances are it's not going to come. I'm sorry, I don't want to rain on everyone's,
It's reality though.
dreams. It's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
And if you're getting talks from Division I track, like, what's cool about track is you compete against all the Power 5 people too. And the results are only on you. It's not, was a team good or bad? Did the offensive line block for you? Did the receivers catch the ball or whatever? It's I worked hard and I got better. I worked hard and I didn't get better, but hopefully there's a reason for that, and you and your coach can figure it out. So
I'm curious, have you worked or spoken with like Lamar, coach? I think y'all have a new coach there, Coach Morgan. Is it possible for a boy to come in and do football maybe in the fall and turn around and throw for you in the spring? Is that maybe an option? Y'all can work together?
Yeah, so we have talked a couple times, just kind of about that. We're just working through the structure of how we want to do it right now.
Awesome.
I know we have, I think, 2 or 3 guys coming, not throwers right now, but sprinters coming from the track or from the football team to come do track in the spring. Awesome. So it's one of those things of just making sure that we're on the same page with them about how they want to do it, and the hours involved with us versus them, and the training pretty much is the other part. Because I think Coach Morgan is pretty on board with letting the track people do track stuff and just do football video stuff. But since I don't have any throwers involved with them this year, they submit a
yeah.
That's a good looking guy.
Yeah, she's pretty. It's all good. She's trying. Her ball got stuck on the couch now, so.
Understandable. Understandable.
You good? Okay. Anyway.
There we go.
I knew she was going to be
animals
crazy.
And pets are important for sure. They're especially around here.
Yeah.
For sure.
I just got her a month and a half ago, so we're still
awesome.
getting to know each other phase.
That's all. There you go. Well, she sounds well mannered. That's for sure.
She's getting there.
I'm kind of curious. Getting into your philosophy and recruiting, and do you like the big tall athlete? Because I know you said you had a javelin thrower that's 6'6". Do you prefer the big long shot putter? Does height or anything kind of considered playing your equation of your technical aspect of it as well?
Yeah. Honestly, like all things being equal, I would take a taller athlete over a shorter one. There's just more leverage, and height of release is automatically better, all those like just mechanical factors. But then again, there are a lot of the undersized athletes out there that can get it done, right?
Yeah.
So I think one thing special for us is that we can do both here. And there are some schools that they won't look at the undersized throwers, because if they're looking for people that they think can be, immediately regional or national, and they're looking to put on some major distances in the first year or two, like the taller athletes have a higher window they see, more room for growth in terms of distances like that, where they gamble with a smaller athlete is a little bit more for that, right? So it's less of a sure thing, as much as you can call it. So for me, honestly, like I said, it comes down to, can they strike an implement, and can they move pretty decent? Can they make changes? So yeah, at my past school, I had a bunch of really tall athletes. I think my average height on them, probably between the men and the women, was 6'2". I don't know. I felt like a child at the time. because I'm only 5'10", but I think I have a weird thing where I've been around tall people my whole life, so I don't feel short really, but you know, I don't know, maybe it's some kind of mental thing, but
I understand.
um,
Now, are y'all allowing walk-ons to possibly happen as well, where somebody might get into Lamar academically? You know, say someone graduated from Orangefield or something, and they're going to Lamar for nursing school, but they want to, you know, they want to walk on because they throw a little bit. Are those options y'all are allowing?
oh yeah, so as long as they communicate, and you know, we had a bunch that were interested, not a bunch, I say it was like 5 or 6 that were interested. But in terms of like where we were in the year and training and stuff, it was just a little bit late. And by the time we were able to get it all situated, it was like mid-October, and I just felt that we were a little too far behind on it. So I said, and also they wanted to use track to get in shape for football, which like if they were just going to use our training in the fall to try out for the football team in the spring, that's not really what we're in the business of.
Yeah.
So in terms of investment on that, I just didn't feel comfortable with it. But in the years coming up, I'm sure we're going to have some announcement go out in terms of like a walk-on tryout date and stuff like that, where we do a bunch of tests and, you know, an evaluation period to move it on forward. But yeah, if anybody, you know, is ever interested, I'm sure people listen here, like just reach out to me, my email and all that's on the website. So yeah.
Okay. Have you thought about doing any like throwing symposium clinics, any little small camps coming up? Are you thinking about doing any of that on campus?
Have not thought about doing that on campus yet, but that's something definitely I'm going to keep in mind, because I think any kind of exposure, you know, that especially in this area, like a lot of people don't know that Lamar's in the throws game now, right?
Yeah.
So
that's
I
why
think
we have you on.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate it.
You're good. They're going to see this in Iceland.
Yeah,
We're big in Iceland. I just want you to know. We're big in Iceland.
Well, they can throw stuff over there, so
yeah.
But yeah, so that's something I'm definitely going to keep in mind, because I do think just community exposure around here is really big. And you know, just the market outside of Houston or inside Houston, this whole area, like there's a lot of good athletes out here. And like if we do a camp or something around here and, you know, start getting our eyes on, you know, some people, like you never know what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like other stuff, like I will be talking at the National Coaches Convention this year.
Oh wow! Okay.
Mid-December, just doing a presentation on how to keep javelin throwers healthy throughout the year. I think there's 2 things in javelin that we don't do well as American coaches, and number 1 is keep them healthy, and then number 2 is coach the run up. So it's torn between those 2 topics, but I think keeping them healthy is probably more important.
Do you have, can people listen online to that talk?
I don't think so, to be honest with you. They do post the materials online afterwards on the USCFCCCA website. There's like convention materials on there. So after the presentation, you go through the slides and stuff. And I'm going to try and do like still frames of any videos that I use, so that, because one thing I've done in the past is I've tried to go on there and, you know, look at what people were talking about previously when I wasn't there, and it's all videos, and I'm like, I want to see what they were doing.
Yeah.
We'll see when I run out of time to do it.
Where will that conference be at?
In Orlando, Florida.
Oh, well, okay. So Florida in December will be good.
So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Just like here, probably.
Now, I know you have a background as being a strong javelin thrower, and you know we're going to go through that a little bit later too. But kind of talk to us a little bit about your technical philosophy for, you know, we talked about the thrower you kind of look for, but kind of what your technical philosophy is. Would you take a glider and change them to rotational shot put? You know, would you make that person a hammer thrower and not a discus thrower, boys and girls? What's your kind of technical philosophies?
So I would say my technical philosophy is like be an athlete. So I never want to take just the raw athletic movements away from somebody. I know there's like, and I've done it in the past, and I feel like every coach has made the mistakes of over technicalizing things or under technicalizing things, letting some things slide while not doing enough others. So recently, I never want to take the natural strike on the implement away from somebody. So whatever way that we can get them in position to strike and implement is the way that I want to do it. And then we'll work backwards from there, right? So if we're talking about glide shot put versus spin shot put, personally, we're going to go through a whole cycle of trying to change that.
Okay.
We're going to try and make that transition. And if it doesn't take, it doesn't take, and we'll just stick to the glide.
Okay.
Main reason for that is I just think the ceiling for a spinner versus a glider is so much higher at this point. I think, once more high school coaches, I think you guys have been doing a great job of introducing people to the rotational technique. Once there's more exposure to high school coaches and getting them comfortable with teaching the spin, I think it's just going to change, the shot put in the U.S. even more.
That makes me, we interviewed Randy Matson. I don't know if you listened to that one, and how he says spinning is cheating. So,
Yep. Especially in high school.
Like, if you spinning, in his mind, it's cheating. But
if you can spin in high school, you have a leg up on everybody else.
Yeah.
Very true.
For sure. So regardless of that, are you a kind of big knee lift coming around that left side axis in the entry, or you kind of maybe a low foot coming into that entry? What's your kind of philosophy on that sweep and that entry?
I think it's a little bit individual, because like I said, like the biggest thing is how do we find the power position to hit the,
Gotcha.
say we're talking about shot. How do we find, sorry, the dog is playing again. How do we find the power position to strike the implement at the front, right?
Gotcha.
So right now, say I have my two guys who are spinning and shot put, Colin and Trevante, right? So Colin was a spinner in high school. He taught himself and he's actually pretty proficient at it. And he's been throwing really well this fall. He is a little bit lower on it, and he does a little bit more of a knee drive up into the middle.
Gotcha.
I've been working. What we found is that the throws that he keeps his right leg lower on the sweep, he gets a much better wrap around. He's maybe 6 foot tall or 350. He's a big dude, so he needs a little extra. I'm gonna call it like force to get him wrapped up. Right. So I think that longer leg staying a little bit lower helps him catch that wrap a little bit better. Trevante is a very similar build, but he's transitioning from the spin from the glide, and he made the conversion really, really well. So, but he is a little bit tighter on his right, but I think it's more of a learning thing where he's not comfortable really sweeping that out. But he'll get out, he'll get balance and kind of hit that South African position, and then really work it pretty, not high, but like he'll do a little bit of the knee drive into the middle, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I like being a little more like inner thigh towards the middle. But to me, as long as you're checking the boxes of out the back, do we shift our weight over the left? Do we sweep out? Do we let the right foot pass the left before we turn down the middle? Do we stop our rotation of the left side to get down into the middle and all that?
Squeaky toy.
Yeah, I knew this was going to happen. I tried to run her. I ran her 2 miles and she was going crazy. But anyway, as long as you're checking the boxes of like, the basic principle of what we do at that phase of the throw, that's the most important thing to me, as long as it lines up into that power position. Right. Obviously, like there's deficiencies of, if you don't shift all the way over or shift your weight onto your left, then you're probably going to fall into the middle and then fall out the left of the circle when you go and strike it. But honestly, like sometimes that's something you're going to have to work through and just eventually fix that. But we're kind of we're in a tough timeline in the collegiate system where, our first meet is December 11th, right? So so we have three months pretty much to teach these guys a whole new thing. Luckily, Colin Kennedy already knew, but like to teach these people our things and say, go compete, right? Yeah. So really, you kind of have to pick and choose your battles really, really well, and just make sure that you're maximizing what you're working on. So hopefully the one thing you're working on will fix 3 or 4 things down the road.
Gotcha. Awesome. Cool. Now, in javelin, your background's basically been in javelin and stuff. How would you take that very athletic high school athlete, maybe a volleyball player or softball player, and convert them to javelin? What would be some of the basic intros that you would do to that for them?
Honestly, just a lot of stand throws and just moving from low intensity crossovers. The big thing with volleyball players and the transition to javelin is that everything they've done is from a fully extended upward position, right? So they strike not from the ground. They always strike from the air. So for volleyball players, and I'm still trying to figure out the best way to convert this, I've developed a few ways that kind of just focuses of working from the ground up that have seemed to help when I do clinics and stuff. But that it's actually really, you would think javelin has a pretty good carryover with volleyball because of the overhand, but it's the fact of throwing or, striking the ball from off the ground versus on the ground, which is way different. So it's actually a little bit of a challenge for them. But mainly the biggest things I focus are low intensity reps. And we play, it's like just that game where you throw a bottle out or a cone or something and target practice with it. And we just play that game for the whole month of September pretty much. And just keep trying to hit it through the point, get that accuracy. And through each game or each day that we do it, we'll just have them throw it a little further, like throw the bottle a little bit further. And then they'll start having to do 3 steps, 5 steps, 7 steps to start getting at the distance and then try and win the game. So from that, you get a bunch of really low intensity reps, focusing on tip control and just command of the implement. And then you start building in where to add force on top of that. So it's just a really good way to, bridge the gap of, I'm not just throwing this thing out into space. I'm trying to throw the cord through the point into this cone all the way over that way. So just the outcome-based objectives, I think, really help with that transition. But I also do with, any javelin thrower I work with in the first couple months, just to reestablish connection with the implement.
Yeah. Have you ever taken, we've had Ariana Ince on, and she was a very high-level collegiate pole vaulter in one state, in high school as a pole vaulter, and just kind of made the transition to being a javelin thrower. And after talking with her, it kind of opened my mind up a little bit of, wow, if you really think about it, the pole vault, the approach to pole vault is kind of very similar in timing and approach and all that to javelin. What's your perspective on that?
I think it's really cool. I think she's kind of an outlier on it. I don't think there's that many pole vault javelin throwers out there. But I think in the decathlon, I'm actually going to be really curious about this after I say it right now, and I'll probably do a bunch of research tonight on it. I would wager that the athletes in the decathlon that are good at the pole vault are probably pretty decent at the javelin too. And I'm really thinking from the point of the footwork, the approach and all that, aside from javelin, you're sideways, but the rhythm and the tempo is the same. The plant and the jump through the finish, not a jump for javelin, but that's a whole other thing. But especially if they're right hand up, like that catching the shoulder, is kind of what I'm thinking. A swing, I think that would actually probably build a nice little bit of strength and stretchiness through the shoulder. So now I'm gonna be down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, you are.
Well, we have her contact information if you want to talk to her and stuff like that. So,
hi, my name is Meredith McGee, and my father is the founder of Porta-Circle. We created Porta-Circle in order to make throwing more accessible so that you can truly train anywhere. Growing up in Rochester, weather was often a roadblock toward training, and having the Porta-Circle was a lifesaver for both the indoor and outdoor season. Circles start at $149 and go to our website to learn more. www.porta-circle.com. Porta-Circle, making training convenient.
Thanks for sharing that. I'm kind of curious. We haven't talked about Lamar University. If someone's looking at Lamar University, is looking to come throw for you, what can they expect from the academic side from Lamar University?
In terms of like what programs we have, or in
Yeah,
terms
just
of,
in general, campus life.
Mhm.
I know, there's a lot of stuff going on, and the campus has been renovated, and it's pretty
Mhm.
beautiful. Kind of tell us a little about Lamar University on the academic side.
On the academic side, I think most of the athletes that we have on the team are in the health and phys ed department, so health and exercise science, kinesiology, whatever the big umbrella term is. So that's one of our big programs that athletes do. Also, we are a really, really, really good engineering school. Yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where we're shadowed by like Rice and
Yeah.
and Texas A&M and some other engineering things, but we're really, really big in engineering. There was actually a thing that just came out in October where in terms of, I forget the exact specifics of it, but it's like per years down the line, salary versus tuition cost. Lamar was ranked third in the US, among like higher than MIT and Rice for, salary in our engineering program. So it's a really, really good engineering school. If you are really academically, strong, you can pretty much come to school here for free. There's another really good thing about it where the academic scholarship money is really, really generous for athletes that have high GPAs, class rank, and test scores. So I think the top one is like $80,000 over 4 years. So that's the ones with, top class rank, ridiculous GPA, and a pretty high test score. So
cool. What's the student population on campus there? How big is the school?
So I think total enrollment is around 15,000, but there's a lot of online stuff too that Lamar does. But on campus, it's more around 2,500.
Okay.
And then like I want to phrase this the right way. It's kind of it has a history of a commuter school. And then when they built the dorms more recently, then they started changing that a little bit to make it more of a, regular on-campus experience. But it's still, you could feel the commuter roots, which isn't a bad thing. It helps keep you out of trouble and things like that. And just the area, there's a lot of stuff to do. It's just, you have to get there. Unfortunately, you need to have a car, but everyone on the team, not everybody, but most of the people on the team have cars and stuff. So it's not really an issue in that. But yeah, it's one of those things that Beaumont's a cool area. It's very accessible to Houston. We got the beach not too far away, right across the border from Louisiana. So if you want to go over there, like we got, honestly, what I think is we kind of have the best of both worlds in terms of like Texas and Louisiana food.
Yeah.
So we're kind of blessed
Good
on
point.
that.
That's a good selling point for sure. So you had some great coaching experience. We're going to get in your background a little bit. So you were just at Southeastern. How long were you there? And kind of tell us one thing you kind of took from that program that you're bringing to Lamar.
So I was at Southeastern Louisiana for the past 3 years.
Okay.
I inherited a really good group of throwers there, so I can't take all the credit for what we did. Coach Amin, who's now at UNC, he brought in a bunch of good people for us, and I got to capitalize off that. So thank you, Amin.
We're big fans of Coach Nick Farr. We love Coach Nick Farr.
Oh man, he's a great guy. So yeah, my goal at Southeastern was to really refine my coaching philosophy, my programs, my pretty much everything, because that was the first group that I had that was my group, right? For me to train the way that I wanted to, focus on what I wanted to, and do it my way. So that was my biggest takeaway from there, was I got to experiment with my training. Thankfully, I came from a really good mentor and other good coaches from before then, and got to see this stuff works. I got to really learn how to effectively manage a group, keep them all motivated and things like that. So as a young coach, that was a really awesome experience for me to really run the show for the first time.
Wow. Okay.
It was also my first time going into, really recruiting and that whole thing, working through that. So, we did a lot of internationals at Southeastern. It was just, made sense for us for what the goals of the program were. So we got a few internationals, a couple of state kids and all that, but a lot of international athletes. So it's a little bit different than when you focus on in-state people. So it's a whole different level of hustle for getting the U.S. kids.
Gotcha. Cool. And before that, you were at LSU, I think, as a volunteer.
Yep. So I volunteered at LSU for a year, which was an invaluable experience. Actually,
you can tell
I'm
the
going to
story.
tell
us the story. I know the story. Tell it.
Yeah. So the year before I went to LSU, I was coaching at a Division III school in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, at Lebanon Valley College, right? And I had, I've been planning to stay there for a year or two. It was my first, it was still only a part-time coaching job. So I knew that I wanted to get into coaching and kind of make the jump and do it full-time. So after my first year there, I started applying to full-time coaching things, and all of them fell through. And then in like mid to late July, after the last one fell through, I called up one of my coaching mentors and I was like, what do I do? And it's like, well, my buddy Derek is at LSU and he's looking for a volunteer. And I was like, cool, let me talk to him. So I talked to Derek and he's like, I know all about you, come on down. And I was like, cool. 2 weeks later, I was in my car driving down to Louisiana. So moving down there, I think I'm there with Derek for like about 2 weeks. And then he's like, all right, well, I took the job at Alabama, so I'll see you later. So pretty much I was there as the only throws guy at LSU for about a month before they brought in Bowie Schecksnyder, who was their jumps coach forever. He does all the strength conditioning and coaches that stuff through the USCF CCCA. Just incredible guy to learn and work under, and really learn how the ins and outs of coaching a group, right? So that year, working under him, seeing like how he runs the programs, like how he does the training, why he does the things he does. Like honestly, the biggest takeaways that I got were just a little tidbits of information that he would give about like, these little bits of advice that you wouldn't really think mean a lot, but they do. Like, honestly, I think one of the best pieces of advice that he gave me was every day, make sure you say hi to every one of your athletes. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but it makes a huge difference. And like the days where something, exactly. Yeah. And it just lets them vent and get it off them. Like whatever the problem of the day is, like whatever the story is, it's out, then they can focus on practice afterwards. Yeah. Right. So yeah, so that was just a really he just said it in passing one day and I was like, And then I started making a note of the days when I wouldn't, not that I purposely would or wouldn't, it would just be like if I came in late or something, or if I came in late, whatever. The days that for whatever reason I wasn't able to, there was a noticeable difference on how that person was, performing in practice. So little things like that. So I think, learning from just a staff that they have there, who's obviously everybody on that staff is incredibly experienced and all that. It was just, can't say enough good things about my experience there. Luckily I kind of got the best of both worlds because, got to learn from who people spend tons of money to spend a weekend or even a couple of days watching him coach. And I'm there for, 8 months with him. But then also I still talk with Derek and I still get to pick his brain about some things. We were just talking the other day. So, I kind of have the best of both worlds, just know.
That's awesome. Tell him I said hello and I want to talk to him.
I
will. Made some great connections there.
Mm-hmm.
So Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say let's move back. Are we ready to talk about his career?
Yeah. So let's
Yeah,
talk about you,
let's
the
talk about
thrower,
you, the thrower.
in this
Man.
great
that
javelin
came
career.
to be the coach.
Yeah.
It was an all right javelin
It was all right. So in high school, you grew up in New Jersey. You played.
Mhm.
You're a multi-sport athlete.
Yep.
Baseball didn't kind of work out for you, but you
No.
got in track and field. Did you throw javelin in high school? Am I right on that?
Yeah, I did. So New Jersey is a javelin state.
Is it okay?
So yeah, pretty much what happened was I played baseball from like I think the second I could pick something up and throw it, my dad had me playing baseball. And I don't know why, I just loved throwing things as a kid.
Were you a pitcher?
I didn't have very good control. So
Wild thing.
yeah, exactly. But I could throw it really hard.
Okay.
So yeah, I just love throwing. So I usually play catcher too because I had an arm. And you know, when you're little, they either put you at pitcher if you have an arm, but you have to have some kind of control. And that's honest. They care more about the accuracy in the league than anything else because these dads don't want to be standing out there watching some kid firing smoke, but hitting all over the place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I may or may not have thrown over the backstop while I was pitching one time. So explains that. But yeah, so while we were on the little field, I played catcher because I could throw people out at second. When we moved to the big field, they moved me over to third base because then I could throw across the diamond and get someone out at first. Unfortunately, when I moved over to the big field, that's also when I started throwing javelin. So then when I started throwing from third to first, they started sailing out too.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That little-
So how
Yeah.
did you get introduced to javelin?
So what happened was our freshman baseball team only had a roster of 13 people or something. It was super small. Tried out, didn't make it. Coach said, you know, probably next year, if you come out again for the JV varsity team, you'll most likely make it. And I was like, well, that's dumb. Why didn't I make this one?
Yeah.
But anyway, aside from that, ended up being a blessing in disguise. Got into track. Just football coach was our track coach. So it's like, you got to do something. Did track, had no idea. I went out to practice that first day. I had no idea what was going on. So all I knew was all the football guys were around the shot put area. So I was just hanging out over there. And I wasn't big. Like when I was a freshman in high school, I was still only 13. I was young for my grade.
Yeah.
So I was like 5'8" at that point, 160 pounds. Like, you know, I'm not going to throw a shot put far. And then they had the kids throwing javelin, you know, in the other area. And they're like, go over there. You did baseball, right? Go through that thing. So I pick it up, I throw it, and I threw it probably the furthest of everyone that day.
Oh,
And they're
wow.
like, oh, you're going to be a javelin thrower. And I was like, cool. What does that mean?
Yeah.
So I wasn't anything great all through high school either. So like my freshman year, I think I threw like, I had a like freshman meet where I threw like 130 something, but like I threw 117 at whatever other meet I was at. Then the next year I threw 142 maybe. Then my junior year 154, and then my senior year I went 180 and 6 inches. So it was a little progression that way. And I think I started getting coaching between my junior and senior year, which helped me get the basics of the run up and stuff together. That was Coach Mark Mirabelli from New Jersey. Worked with him. So he gave me a really good foundation to work with. I also got a lot stronger that year. It was like my first year of taking the weight room and training seriously. So like I went from being 175 pounds and like benching 185 like twice to being 175 pounds and benching 185 like 16 times. So
Wow.
just
Wow.
you know, what happens when you
It's
actually
called
work hard.
javelin. I ask all javelin throwers this: what grip did you use? You
use?
know, what grip did you use? The choke
So-
it.
Initially, I think there's a big thing where people get really confused where they see the finish grip, right?
Yeah.
Which is where the middle finger and the thumb are on the end of the cord.
Yeah.
They see that and they think it's the one finger grip, right? So
Yeah.
I was taught the one finger grip to start,
Gotcha.
which is like the one finger goes like along the javelin.
Yeah.
And then when you throw it, it bends your finger backwards and it hurts really bad.
Yeah.
So then, no, not good. But it felt right throwing it that way. I just didn't know any better. So then when I went to Mirabelli, then he changed me over to the Finnish grip, which I used ever since then, which is the 2 finger, like the one I just said, with the middle finger and the thumb on opposite ends, and then the jab down that way. I tried the American, I didn't like it. I tried the fork grip. I don't know how anyone throws that way. But I'm team Finnish grip. I think for a lot of athletes with really big hands, they tend to like the American grip. So it's really kind of personal at that point, but either American or Finnish, I think, are the only 2 ways to go.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of a name in javelin U.S. history named Bill Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bill has an interesting philosophy on the grips and stuff like that. So he talked, we had him on our podcast and stuff. So he'd be somebody that you might want to listen to that episode, because his philosophy on grips is pretty interesting. So I won't bore you with the details, but it's a good story to listen.
Got back in the
72. He was 72. Yeah, he's the last American, I think, to medal in javelin.
I think so.
I believe so. Still to this day, still the last one bronze, I believe.
I think so too.
Yeah, he's still alive and lives in Knoxville, Tennessee and stuff.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, cool story. Great guy. He's was the head of Gatorade and worked at Nike and done a lot of. He helped put on the '84 Olympics and stuff. So so he's still alive and trucking and living in. He's still doing lessons and stuff and javelin lessons in Knoxville.
He plays golf a lot.
Plays golf for a lot. For sure. So after that senior year, you had the opportunity to go to college. You went to D3 school. Where was that at?
So I went to Rowan University in South Jersey. So pretty much what I was, I'll be fully honest, I wasn't a very good high school student. I just kind of figure I can go in, I can get a B on a test without studying, so why work any harder? It all kind of came to a head when it's like, why aren't I getting into any colleges? So it ended up, working out in a sense where I went to Rowan. They let me do track there, which was cool. So I was there for 2 years. My progression was kind of like my first meet. I had like a 16-foot PR and I threw 196 at that meet. And I thought that was pretty cool because I was down at Wake Forest and I beat some kids from Duke and I thought that was awesome. And then I didn't throw much further that whole year. So my freshman year, did that. I think I threw upper 190s. And then my sophomore year, still at Rowan, I had a best of 203, so 61 meters, almost 62. Wow. I made D3 nationals. At our conference meet, I ended up blowing out my elbow, and like an idiot, I like to pretend like it didn't happen. So I went out to the nationals 2 weeks after that, and like my arm was just kind of flopping around. So I went out to nationals 2 weeks later. My goal was not to come in last. I got 13th out of 16th, so take that. I threw like 186 too, which was not terrible, but not great. I was a little upset. But yeah, when I tore my elbow, like it just was, I never had elbow pain before that. And I didn't have too much after that either. It was just like one throw, just one and done. And then like an idiot, that was on my 5th throw. I came back and I did my 6th one. I was like, that's after that throw. It was actually like my 2nd best throw ever at the time too. After that throw, everyone started throwing for it in the last round. So I had my shoes off and everything. People started throwing for it. I was like, whatever, I'm doing this last one. I don't care. It's already broken. I threw again. It was another it was like my 3rd best throw ever at the time. So but yeah. So then I ended up, I wasn't the happiest at school. Just like I had a lot of really good friends, but something didn't feel right to me. So I ended up transferring. I didn't really have a place to go set up after that. So I stayed home a semester and I went to community college. And then I transferred to East Stroudsburg in the spring, which is a D2 school in the Poconos in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So thankfully, coaches there took a chance on me. Like I said, I wasn't really the best student early on. So I was okay. I wasn't great, but, they took a chance on a 200-foot javelin thrower with a busted elbow. From there, I kind of got the first real taste of like structured throwing practice, right? So we got our workouts, we trained really hard. Our group was there's the three main of us, whereas me, Russie Hendrick, and Josh Hans, who were my two teammates that were there for most of the time that I was there. And we just worked really hard every day, just trying to be our best selves, and honestly just trying to beat each other, be the best on the team. We're just three super competitive dudes. So in my time there, that first season, I competed at one meet. My elbow was still very floppy and clumsy. I started working with Barry Krames, who coaches a lot for the Javelin Project Gold thing the NSAF does. So he was my coach in college. Well, he was also training at the time. He went to school at East Stroudsburg. He still trained there. He coached us. So like working with him, like he would always be like, dude, you have so much power. It's just going straight up, like flatten that javelin out. I'm like, I can't help it. Because also I didn't know really that my elbow was busted. I'd never really got it checked out. I got it checked out like in October after I, blew it out. But the doctor was kind of mean, so I never went back. But I remember we were sitting there, and now this is all in retrospect, where she does like the elbow test where they hold your elbow and they push your hand out. And she's like, oh, what do you think's wrong with your elbow? I don't know, maybe a Tommy John thing. She's like, well, let's find out. So she holds my elbow, she starts pushing my hand, and it's like, he goes from like here all the way out to the right? And she's like, did that not hurt? I was like, should it? She's like, well, a failed test is like a couple millimeter opening of that, and meanwhile my hand is like in the next room. Yeah, I didn't really put that together until she didn't tell me that part. I found out what a failed test meant like years later. So I was going in the assumption that like I sprained my elbow and like I was fine, because it didn't hurt after that. It just felt weird and loose. Because find out 3 years down the line that it was just a clean tear of a ligament. And so there's nothing in there to hurt. Most people, they either have like an avulsion where it pulls off a bone, or there's a partial tear or something. Mine was just clean, one and done, and then it was just loose. So it's super weird. So for that whole first year, it was me regaining point control in the javelin. So I had like one practice where I threw over 200 feet, and then the rest of them were just like freaking bring the rain, like trying to hit the moon down. And so then the next year, come back, and I end up throwing 65 meters, so like 213. I got 7th at D2s that year. Still just working. They probably went as high as they did out. They were still just way up there. And then finally, that last year in college, I threw 70 meters, and I got 2nd at Division IIs, and had the B standard for USA's that year, but didn't make it.
That's your all-time PR, right?
Yeah, that was my all-time PR. So from there, and then what happened was I started developing all these pains on the outside of my elbow. So I wasn't getting medial elbow pain, I was getting lateral elbow pain. And my tricep was really bothering me. And so I go back to the doctor, a different doctor this time. And he's like, oh man, you threw that far, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you probably just have like a partial tear, this and that. I know a really good physical therapist. And he's doing the test on me. He's like, I know a really good physical therapist. My hand starts going further.
Yeah.
I know a really good surgeon. I was like, it changed.
Went from physical therapy to, we need some surgery.
Yeah. So then I got Tommy John surgery, came back from that. Didn't quite make it back to where I was. I had all kinds of other issues though. I overtrained myself. I learned the hard way of everything to do as a javelin thrower to break yourself. I did it. So I was just one of those hard-headed people, like, I'm just gonna try and do this until it works, and I don't care if it hurts. And now I'm paying the price for that.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming your talk you're doing at that,
In December.
in December is because of what you learned as a javelin thrower to
Exactly.
keep javelin throwers healthy. So
Exactly. So
you
between
had
like
to go through it, but learned a lesson to help others.
exactly. So between like me breaking myself and then a lot of the really, really good coaching mentors I've been, very fortunate to have in my development, just learning all the ins and outs of training and stuff like that, and just a well-rounded javelin program, which also applies to all the other events too. One thing like that helped me when I came down south was I didn't want to be a javelin guy. But these javelin throwers just find me and I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
There's one thing, like I was having trouble getting coaching jobs up north because nobody wanted to hire just a javelin guy. I'm like, I know the other ones.
Yeah.
Let me coach them.
And how did you learn? Because as you're talking about that, I was just thinking about that too. You didn't throw shot put or discus in high school and stuff, and those might be the most maybe popular out of the implement throws. How did you become educated and develop into the coach that you became, not being able to throw those implements?
So I did throw shot put and discus in high school.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Not very good at it.
Okay.
I threw like 45 and 130.
Okay.
Which, was like 1 out of every 50 throws in the sector. It just wasn't good. So kind of a bunch of things. Once I transferred to Stroudsburg, I was able to start over with a clean GPA. Which was a really cool thing for me because I was like, I have a fresh start here. Let's make it count. So then I kind of became a little bit of a nerd too. So from there, I started taking an interest. I studied exercise science when I was there. So I got my bachelor's and my master's from Stroudsburg in exercise science. I really liked biomechanics. So just learning the way the body moves along with motor control and stuff like that. So what I did my senior year was in the spring, I only had to take one more class to graduate. So there's a rule in the NCAA is if you're in your last semester of eligibility, you only have to take the number of credits that you need to graduate to be eligible. So for me, that was one class, and then that was all I took. I took that one and a grad school class to get a jump start on it. And aside from that, I had a lot of time. So it wasn't between those classes. Both happened to be 8 a.m.s. So I would go like this 8 a.m. class. I would go do a morning shakeout at the rec center, catch the breakfast swipe at the calf, sit there probably until lunch. And then I spent like 6 hours in the calf that semester, like a day. So because I had a rule for myself too, I wouldn't go back to my house. Once I was on campus, I would stay on campus until I was done. That just kept me on track.
Focused,
focused on what I had to do. So then I would just go to the library and just watch like every track video on YouTube. So I ate up all the events. I thought it was so cool. Most of the time it was javelin stuff back then, but like I watched a lot of discus videos then too. Like that was when Robert Harding was like the discus king. So just watching him and Peter Malachowski and all those guys, and then all the shot putters too at that time. Like just watching all these events, I just started really falling in love with the sport as a whole. So then I just started looking at them and applying like those principles that I learned from javelin into those events. I started talking with all of our other throwers more, talking with our throws coach, and just really, learning from other people and studying and just reading all the research, all the nerd stuff, all the back end work that you have to do. And honestly, I think it helped me become a better coach because I think in those events, like there's the two ways of coaching, right? There's like, do it this way because this is what I did, or do it this way because this is like the principles. Exactly. And I started out as a javelin coach as a watch me do it coach. And then once I figured out how to use words, then I, went away from that. I still do it sometimes because why not? But then I pay the price for it. But with the other events, it's like, these are the principles of the throw. Are we accomplishing this? And then from that, of knowing like what it should look like and the points that you're really trying to hit, it's developing your cues to accomplish those goals. So then that's why like a cue system is really big. And I think in my first 5 years of coaching, it was really developing, how to say things to get the results that I wanted. So I think that was my handicap at the start for all the other throwing events, was just the cues, right? I had never done them. I never had a coach telling me to sweep my right foot or anything like that, or, sprint down the middle of the circle. I never had that. So just learning those cues just from talking with other coaches and reading and watching videos and all this stuff, that caught up real quick. And then also another thing that Boo told me at LSU was like, the only bad cue is the one you don't use. So then I just come out there and I say a bunch of dumb stuff and see what sticks.
Yeah. That's a great way to figure it out, though, because you got to find the right word that works for you and that the kids understand.
Awesome.
So
Exactly.
you gotta, make it that cue consistent, because there's a lot of different ways to say. We were just discussing this for the podcast. There's a lot of different ways to say the same thing, but you got to find the cue that sticks, that makes sense.
Because I get mad at her because she doesn't say it the way I say it, but I want her to say it the way I say it. And the kids come back to me and they're like, I don't know what she said.
No, they come to me and say, I don't know what you said. I was just thinking,
she's very enduring and like sweet and kind. And I'm like, get your ass in the ring and shut up.
We got to get on the same page with our cues.
We're gonna borrow that in our marriage.
Saying that,
our cue is not. That's not our love language.
I'm team whatever works. I'm all for. I think the most frustrating thing though is like when you're saying something and then someone comes over and says the exact same thing. They pick it up after that. But then at the end of it, I'm like, ego aside, you're doing what we wanted, so I don't care.
Sometimes it does take a different voice to say the same words. And then they get on. I want to ask you, what was it like moving down south from New Jersey and everywhere you come to Louisiana and then now into Texas? How was it? Culture shock?
Yes. I think the first shock was the heat stroke. I was not ready for that. I remember my brother and I drove down from Jersey. He kind of took it as a vacation from work. So we drove down, we spent 4 days in New Orleans. But I think once we hit Alabama and we got out of the car in Montgomery or something to go like the outlets there, I was like, what am I doing? Is this life here? Oh my God. And then like when we were driving through Alabama and we were stopping at the rest stops and stuff and like just checking out, I could not understand what people were saying. And I was like, is this what it's going to be? I don't think I could live down here. This is like a different country. But it ended up being okay. People started speaking English again in Louisiana. So now I didn't know how that happened. But so definitely
our version of English.
Definite a little bit of culture shock, just in terms of like priorities and stuff. Like I think one thing that set me a little bit apart in terms of like, doing a good job at LSU was that I had that northern kind of tempo, right? Where, the pace of life down here is way different. Everything up there is like, let's go,
hustle, bustle,
hustle, that whole thing. Down here, it's a lot more, on your own time, which at first really bothered me, but now I'm starting to enjoy it. There's a little less stress on me about things, which is cool. But just all those little things. Honestly, I put on way too much weight when I moved down here.
The food is good.
Found some good food.
I finally got that weight off the past 2 years, so I'm back in, healthy range.
Cool. Well, Matt, man, thanks so much for being on. Man, we wish you the best. We want Lamar to turn into a throwing powerhouse for sure, dude. For sure. We'll do anything we can to help that happen. I used to coach in that area, so one advice I would give you, if you seem like a kind of brave, bold dude, don't hesitate to go into West Orange Start, Lumberton, Silsbee, little LCM, and walk into those football coaches and introduce yourself as a throws coach in Lamar and say, hey, you got any guys that might not be a football talent to throw, but might be good throwers?
Yep.
And they'll open the doors for you, man. Get down there and network and get to know those coaches in that Golden Triangle area, because there is a lot of untapped talent and kids huge that go play football, and then they're working in the marsh in the summer, or working in the refineries for a summer job, and nobody knows they're down there.
Yep. Sure. Yeah. Pretty much my plan was, once football season's over, then we're gonna tap in that whole market, see who's still available, and go there. So
for sure. I used to coach with the head coach at Orangeville, Josh Smalley. I know the head coach at Vider as well. All those guys. So West Orange for sure. So for sure.
Awesome.
So man, so go make something of Lamar, dude, and we'll try to get you some more throws. If you're ever in this area, let us know. Oh, and I was going to ask you this earlier. So tell us your indoor schedule for track. Where y'all going December 11th, and where y'all going to be at?
December 11th is at University of Houston.
Okay.
UH. I think there's a high school meet directly after. They're probably going to kick this out real quick, and then I do that. So we were just talking about today. One of our coaches at least has to go back with the team, but we're all kind of fighting on who's going to get to watch the meet afterwards. So, we'll see who's available then. But then after that, we have our next meet, I want to say January 14th or 16th, sometime on that weekend, the second week of January. And then it's pretty much every weekend after that. I wish I could tell you where. I worry about those things when they come up.
But. Yeah. Right. So will y'all compete in conference in the Southland for indoor?
No. So they fully voted to kick us out. So last year was the last year in the Southland. This is full WAC.
Okay. So WAC, you'll be indoor conference for the WAC then now. Okay. Just clarification for that. And outdoor will be in the WAC conference as well.
Correct.
Yep. Gotcha.
Where do they have their indoor meet? Because the Southland.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Southland was usually always in
Birmingham.
My daughter threw at SFA years ago, so familiar with that. But where's the WAC have theirs at?
So this year it's in New Mexico, in Albuquerque.
Oh.
So who's some schools in the WAC?
So the 4 Texas schools that moved over were us, Stephen F., Sam Houston, and Abilene Christian.
Yeah.
And then Tarleton's in there.
Okay.
And some other schools that are from all over are Cal Baptist. I can't remember, it's New Mexico State, University of New Mexico, one of those ones.
Okay.
Seattle, Chicago schools in there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's a whole bunch of them. I should know more of them, but I'm drawing a blank on them right now. I'm sorry. I should know our competition better, right? But
now I was just kind of curious to kind of paint that picture. What's going on in the landscape of conferences and stuff like that? Because
I've never known this much change of conference ever.
Yeah.
Like, people are bouncing all over. Like, now there's reports that some of these schools that just joined the WAC are leaving to go other places. It's crazy. Yeah. All I know is that from everything I hear, Lamar is staying in the WAC.
Good. Yeah.
And building a throws program.
Yeah. Exactly. And we're, the WAC is not the strongest in the throws, so we are hoping to capitalize.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure. And we hope this podcast will help get that out there and stuff. So, Matt, man, thank you so much. Tell Coach Clark I look forward to meeting him. And just God bless y'all, man. And I hope y'all get that thing turned around down there. And I look forward to seeing what you do with some throwers, man. And we'll try to get you some sent that way for sure.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we're doors open right now. So.
All right, man. Thank you so much. We'll see you down the road.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Have a good night.
We would like to thank Coach Tholis, Lamar University, for being on. Just really, really excited to see what he can do. I love the fact that he doesn't come from that stereotype background of he was through this in high school and he was a great thrower in college and all the implements and did this and had this great throwing career, you know, and that didn't pan out and now he's just throwing. It's totally opposite. He kind of trained and educated himself and became kind of a throwing nerd to catapult him in this situation. And to be hired so young to go build a program to going into a D1 conference like the WAC it says something about his capabilities and like what Coach Clark actually sees in him.
Well, I think too, he's just that lifelong learner. He talks about everyone that when he was at LSU and just the little nuggets of wisdom from the say hi to every kid every morning.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's normal in the age group of kid I teach, but in a college kid, you need that connection with them to know how their day is going, what they've done, and how then they can clear their mind and focus. Just all the little bits. He just seems like a sponge. Just takes in everything that he's been taught by some really great throws coaches and been around, and is just gonna use it to fit his style and figure out, like I said, his cues, like he's still growing and learning his philosophy, which is what a great coach does. Constantly changes and always getting better.
Yeah. We're excited to see what happens. We wish them the best, and man, hopefully they'll be breaking records and winning championships at Lamar University for sure. So we're excited to see what happens in the next 4 to 5 years, and good luck to y'all.
Awesome. All right. We want to thank our wonderful sponsors, ttfca.org. Go check their website out. Stuart has such great stuff out there on his website. Indoor meets coming up. The Winter Clinic in January, which is just right around the corner. He's got the Hall of Fame class and all of those things. So go check that out. Fourthrows.com, their quality implements. Go to fourthrows.com. Use the code TALKING10 to get 10% off.
For the FiberSport Discus.
Yes, and get you a FiberSport Discus there. Then Porta-Circle, making throwing more accessible. Go to porta-circle.com. Again, it gets cold somewhere this time of year, not necessarily here, but and get you a cup. Go get you a Porta-Circle. They really are great. Just have that visual cue. Even if the weather is fine and you can be outside, you can have that to help you with your throwing. And then if you're in the Austin area, ReadyUp Athletic Development, go to ReadyUp.ad.com. Call Zach Phillips, 512-507-8347. And check him out on Instagram. I love seeing all the great things that he posts that he's got his kids out there doing. So make sure you go and check that out. And then our FiberSport Discus. We've recruited a new man. I need to do a TikTok video with the discus.
Very cool looking, very cool design. So this is a low spin twister too. So I've heard good things about the Storm. The 2K discus is amazing. What he's doing with the FiberSport Discus is something you definitely need to check out. So if you want to throw far, you're going to throw far with the FiberSport Discus for sure. So you get this little cool bag as well. So go to fibersportsdiscus.com.
Yeah, go and check them out. And then go check us out at the Throwing Factory. We said we're doing lessons. We got any type of lessons that you want. Give it. Why are you laughing at me? I can edit this part out, but go to throwingfactory.com. Check us out and
how many times are you gonna say check us out? Go to the store.
What else do you want me to say?
What? Where does it say check me out? Check us out. Check us out.
It says go check out the
throwingfactory.com. We're doing lessons. God, check us out. We're doing lessons. Check us out. I'm making fun of you. We're doing lessons. Check us out. We're doing this. Check us out.
Find Coach Jarvis or Coach Kai Smith.
Smith.
They are way
please.
more fun than Coach Jason Hayes.
So,
all right, go ahead.
So, guys, if you're looking to develop in weightlifting, Olympic lifting, come check me out at Lifting DFW Human Performance. That website is liftingdfw.com. We came up with a mobile fitness station that can take training to a new level. I can take this mobile fitness station to any park, any driveway, any gated community or field or AstroTurf or wherever it is, and develop a program to make you from a 0-star athlete to maybe a 5-star athlete. Everybody too on throwingfactory.com about our shopping, sweatsuits, hoodies, long sleeve shirts, hats, towels, anything you need to look cool in a track meet and look fashionable. Go to the throwingfactory.com to purchase one of those apparel as well. And also YouTube. We're on YouTube now, so Google Talking Throws Podcast Texas Style, and you'll be able to check out all our videos.
Come back to the shopping page for all you kids looking for something for your mom. There's some cool thrower mom shirts that your moms can wear to the indoor meets, outdoor meets, so that would be something great. You know how us moms like to support our kiddos with those shirts on, so go check those out. It'd be a great Christmas gift.
Check us out. Check us out. Check us out.
Thank y'all. We're going to check y'all later.